He stood in that rooftop bar, surrounded by power and privilege, and said the words that should have ended everything before it began. I only date pale women who look expensive. What he didn't know was that the woman in the red dress, the one who just walked through the door, had heard every poisonous word. She walked up to his table, looked him dead in the eye, and delivered a line that would haunt him. You sound like a man afraid of real light. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. Fate wasn't done with Ethan Cole. 3 weeks later, she walked into his office as the designer hired to make his biggest event of the year unforgettable. And suddenly, the man who thought he knew exactly what he wanted had to face the one woman who could show him everything he'd been missing. What happened next will restore your faith in second chances or break your heart trying. Subscribe and comment below if you've ever had to teach someone what real beauty means, because this story is about to take you on a journey from humiliation to redemption that you won't believe. The late afternoon sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. Up on the rooftop bar, the city sprawled below like a kingdom of glass and steel. Ethan Cole sat back in his leather chair, whiskey glass in hand, feeling on top of the world. Around the table sat 5 other men in expensive suits. They were all executives, all successful, all used to getting what they wanted. The conversation had turned to dating, as it often did after the second round of drinks. So, what's your type, Cole? Marcus from accounting asked with a grin. You've been single for what, 6 months now? Ethan swirled the amber liquid in his glass. 6 months since Tanya had left him for someone with a bigger yacht. 6 months since the tabloids had whispered that even his millions weren't enough. The memory still stung, but he'd learned to hide it behind confidence and charm. My type? Ethan leaned forward, a smirk playing on his lips. I like women who look expensive. Pale skin, designer clothes, the kind of woman who turns heads when she walks into a room. Miles Harper, his business partner and best friend, raised an eyebrow. He'd known Ethan since college and could see through most of his acts. That's pretty specific, Miles said carefully. I know what I want. Ethan's voice grew louder, fueled by whiskey and the need to prove something. I work hard for my money. I deserve someone who matches that. Someone polished. Someone who looks like they belong on a magazine cover. The other men laughed and clinked their glasses, but Miles just watched his friend, seeing the insecurity underneath all the bravado. What about authenticity? Miles asked. Character? Substance? Ethan waved his hand dismissively. That's what people say when they settle. I'm not settling. I want someone who looks like success. He raised his glass higher, about to make another toast to his shallow wisdom. That's when the door to the rooftop bar opened. She walked in like she owned the sunset. The woman wore a red dress that hugged her curves perfectly. Not tight, not flashy, just elegant. Her dark skin glowed in the golden light. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek bun. She moved with the kind of confidence that didn't need to announce itself. Ethan's glass stopped halfway to his lips. His words died in his throat. She didn't glance at their table, didn't seem to notice the group of men in their expensive suits. She simply walked to the bar with purpose, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor. Earth to Ethan, Marcus chuckled. You were saying something about pale skin? Ethan barely heard him. His eyes followed the woman as she reached the bar. The bartender smiled at her like they were old friends. I'll take a mojito, please. Her voice carried across the space. It was warm, confident, clear. The bartender nodded and started mixing her drink. Then he glanced over at Ethan's table and back to the woman. Are you joining Mr. Cole's party? The bartender asked. I can have this brought over to your table. Ethan's heart lurched. He hadn't planned this, but suddenly all eyes were on her, and then on him. The woman turned slowly. Her eyes met Ethan's across the space. They were intelligent eyes, measuring eyes. In that moment, Ethan felt like she could see right through his expensive suit to all the insecurity underneath. No, she said simply. I'm not with anyone. But the bartender, trying to be helpful, persisted. Oh, I just thought since I'm here alone, she said, her voice still warm but firmer now, and I'd like to stay that way. Miles choked back a laugh. Marcus and the others shifted in their seats. Ethan felt heat rise to his face. The woman took her mojito, left cash on the bar, and walked to a small table by the windows. She pulled out a tablet and started reviewing something, completely focused on her work. Well, Miles said quietly, leaning toward Ethan, that was karma working fast. Ethan stared at his whiskey. His grand speech about expensive-looking women suddenly felt hollow and stupid. She was elegant. She was beautiful, and she'd just made him look like a fool without even trying. Who is she? Ethan muttered. Does it matter? Miles replied. You just announced to everyone here that she's not your type. The other men had started talking about something else, but Ethan couldn't focus. He kept glancing at the woman by the window. She seemed completely unbothered by their presence. Her attention stayed on her tablet, occasionally making notes with a stylus. 15 minutes passed. The sun dipped lower. The rooftop lights flickered on, casting everything in a softer glow. That's when Marcus, who'd had too much to drink, raised his voice again. So Ethan, tell us more about this pale skin requirement. He laughed too loud. What exactly makes someone look expensive? Is it the skin color or the price tag? The other men laughed. Even drunk, they could tell Marcus was pushing it, but he kept going. I mean, we just saw a stunning woman walk in here, and you didn't even... Marcus, shut up, Miles said sharply. But it was too late. The woman by the window had gone very still. Her hand stopped moving on the tablet. For a moment, she just sat there, absorbing what she'd heard. Then she stood up. Ethan watched as she picked up her tablet, her mojito, and walked straight toward their table. His mouth went dry. Part of him wanted to disappear through the floor. Part of him couldn't look away from her. She stopped right at the edge of their table. Up close, she was even more striking. Her makeup was subtle and perfect. Her eyes held a mix of disappointment and something sharper. "Excuse me," she said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone at the table fell silent. "I couldn't help but overhear your conversation." Ethan opened his mouth, but no words came out. "You sound like a man afraid of real light," she continued. Her tone wasn't angry. That made it worse somehow. She sounded almost sad. "Real beauty scares you because you don't know how to buy it or control it. So you shrink the world down to what feels safe." She reached into her small purse and pulled out a business card. She placed it on the table in front of Ethan. "For when you're ready to expand your horizons," she said. Then she turned and walked away, her red dress swishing softly as she disappeared through the door. The table sat in stunned silence. Even Marcus had sobered up fast. Miles picked up the card and read it aloud. Moments by Z Event Design. Zoe Daniels, Creative Director. Ethan grabbed the card from Miles's hand. The design was simple but elegant. A small logo of intertwined letters, a phone number, an email. "I think you just got schooled," Miles said quietly. Ethan stared at the card. His hands were shaking slightly, though he couldn't say if it was from embarrassment or something else entirely. "I need to go," he muttered, standing up. "Ethan," but he was already walking away, leaving his whiskey unfinished and his friends confused behind him. The next morning, Ethan woke up with a headache that had nothing to do with alcohol. He'd barely slept. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her walking away, heard her voice saying those words, "Afraid of real light." He sat at his desk in his corner office. The city spread out before him through floor-to-ceiling windows. Usually, this view made him feel powerful. Today, it just felt empty. His phone buzzed. A text from Miles. "Emergency meeting with Sarah about the gala. 10 a.m. Ethan groaned. The charity gala. He'd almost forgotten about it. His company hosted one every year, a chance to show off their success while raising money for some worthy cause. This year they were supporting youth education programs. Sarah Jenkins, his event manager, had been planning it for months. Ethan hadn't paid much attention. He usually just showed up, gave a speech, and took credit for the turnout. At 10 o'clock sharp, Sarah walked into his office with a thick binder and a worried expression. "Good morning, Mr. Cole," she said, setting the binder on his desk. "We need to go over some final details for the gala." "Sure," Ethan said, trying to focus. "What's the status?" "Everything's on track. The venue is secured, catering is confirmed, and I've hired the event designer everyone's been raving about." Sarah flipped through the binder. "She comes highly recommended. Does beautiful work. Very professional." "Great," Ethan said absently. "What's her name?" "Zoe Daniels. Her company is called Moments by Z." Ethan's head snapped up. "What?" Sarah looked confused. "Zoe Daniels. Is there a problem?" His heart pounded. The business card from last night was still in his jacket pocket. He'd stared at it for an hour before finally falling asleep. "When did we hire her?" Ethan asked, his voice tight. 3 weeks ago. I interviewed several designers, but she was clearly the best. Her portfolio is stunning and she's within budget. Why? Do you want to see her work? Sarah started pulling out photographs, but Ethan barely saw them. His mind was racing. 3 weeks ago, before last night, before his stupid speech, before she'd looked at him with those disappointed eyes. "She's coming in this morning for a planning meeting," Sarah continued. "In about 20 minutes, actually. I thought you might want to sit in, since this is such an important event." Ethan wanted to refuse, wanted to make up an excuse and run, but he was the CEO. This was his company's biggest event of the year, and somewhere beneath the panic, a small voice whispered that he deserved to face her again. "Fine," he said. "I'll be there." Sarah smiled, pleased. "Great. Conference room B." The next 20 minutes felt like 20 hours. Ethan tried to review some reports but couldn't focus. He checked his reflection in the bathroom mirror 3 times, which was ridiculous. He never worried about how he looked. Finally, he walked to conference room B. Through the glass walls, he could see Sarah setting up a presentation. Miles was there too, sitting at the table with his laptop open. "There he is," Miles said as Ethan entered. "Sarah told me we're meeting the famous event designer." "Yeah," Ethan said, taking a seat. His palms were sweating. "You okay?" Miles asked, studying his face. "You look nervous." "I'm fine. You're never nervous." Before Ethan could respond, the door opened, and there she was. Zoe Daniels wore a navy blue pantsuit today, professional and crisp. Her hair was down now, falling in soft waves past her shoulders. She carried a leather portfolio and moved with the same easy confidence he'd seen last night. Her eyes met his. For a second, something flickered across her face. Recognition, surprise, maybe something else. Then it was gone, replaced by cool professionalism. "Good morning," she said, addressing the room. "I'm Zoe Daniels." "Thank you for coming," Sarah said warmly, shaking her hand. "This is Ethan Cole, our CEO, and Miles Harper, VP of Operations." "Mr. Cole," Zoe said, nodding politely. "Mr. Harper." "Please call me Miles," Miles said, smiling. He glanced at Ethan, who was sitting very still. "And this is just Ethan." "Of course," Zoe said neutrally. She set up her laptop and connected it to the projector. Within seconds, beautiful images filled the screen. Elegant event spaces, creative lighting designs, stunning floral arrangements. "These are examples of my previous work," Zoe began. "For your gala, I've designed a concept that balances sophistication with warmth. The theme is Illuminating Tomorrow, focusing on hope and possibility." She clicked through slides, explaining her vision with clarity and passion. She talked about color palettes, spatial flow, how to make guests feel welcome without overwhelming them. Every detail had been thought through. Ethan tried to focus on the presentation, but he kept getting distracted by her. The way she spoke with such confidence, the way her hands moved when she explained something important, the way she managed to be in the same room with him without showing any sign of last night's confrontation. "What do you think, Ethan?" Miles asked suddenly. Ethan snapped back to attention. Everyone was looking at him. "Sorry, what?" "The color scheme," Sarah prompted. "Zoe suggested deep blues and golds instead of the traditional black and white. I think it's brilliant." Ethan looked at the screen. The colors were rich and warm, unexpected but perfect. "It's good," he said, his voice rougher than intended. "It's really good." Zoe's expression didn't change. "Thank you. How soon can we see the venue set up?" Sarah asked. "I'll have the first phase ready by Thursday," Zoe replied. "That's 2 days from now. You can come by and see the progress." "Perfect," Sarah beamed. "This is going to be our best gala yet." The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. Zoe packed her things efficiently, professionally. She shook hands with Sarah and Miles, then turned to Ethan. "Mr. Cole," she said, extending her hand. He took it. Her handshake was firm, brief, but for a moment their eyes locked, and he saw it again, that measuring look like she was deciding something about him. "Ms. Daniels," he managed, "I look forward to seeing your work." "I'm sure you do," she said. Then she was gone, the door clicking shut behind her. Miles let out a low whistle. "Wow, she's impressive. Very professional," Sarah agreed, gathering her notes. "We're lucky to have her." They left, chatting about timelines and budgets. Ethan stayed in his chair, staring at the screen where Zoe's design still glowed. "You're in trouble," Miles said from the doorway. Ethan turned. His friend was watching him with knowing eyes. "What? That's her, isn't it, from last night?" Ethan didn't bother lying. "Yeah. And she's the event designer for our biggest gala of the year." "Yeah." Miles shook his head, but he was almost smiling. "Karma really doesn't waste time, does it?" Ethan ran his hands through his hair. "What do I do?" "You could start by not being the guy who says stupid things about women's skin color," Miles suggested. "I know that now." "Do you?" Miles walked back into the room and sat across from him. "Because that speech last night wasn't just stupid, man, it was ugly. And the fact that you said it to look tough after Tanya left you, that makes it worse." Ethan slumped in his chair. "I know. She heard you, Ethan, and now she has to work with you. Do you understand how uncomfortable that is for her?" I didn't know she'd be here. That doesn't matter. You said what you said. You meant it when you said it. Now you have to face it. Ethan closed his eyes. Miles was right. He'd been so busy feeling sorry for himself after Tanya left that he'd turned bitter, started saying things to make himself feel bigger, stronger, more in control. And now those words had found their target. What do I do? He asked again, quieter this time. Miles stood up. Be professional. Be respectful. And maybe figure out why you felt the need to tear down an entire group of people just because one woman hurt your ego. He left. Ethan sat alone in the conference room, surrounded by images of beauty and possibility, feeling smaller than he had in years. Thursday afternoon, Ethan found himself standing outside the gala venue. It was a historic ballroom downtown, all marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Usually, he loved this place. Today, his stomach was in knots. He told himself he was just checking on the setup, making sure the company's money was being spent well. It had nothing to do with seeing her again. He pushed through the main doors. The space was transformed already. Deep blue fabric draped from the ceiling catching the light. Gold accents sparkled everywhere, in the table settings being arranged, in the centerpieces taking shape, in the soft glow of carefully placed lamps. And there, in the middle of it all, directing workers with calm authority, was Zoe. She wore jeans and a simple white t-shirt today. Her hair was pulled back in a ponytail. She looked more relaxed, more herself, and somehow even more beautiful. A little to the left, she was telling two men carrying a large floral arrangement. Perfect. Thank you. Ethan stood by the entrance, unsure if he should announce himself or just leave. The decision was made for him when Zoe turned and spotted him. Their eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither moved. Then Zoe walked toward him, her expression neutral but alert. "Mr. Cole," she said, "I wasn't expecting you today." "I wanted to see the progress," he said. It sounded weak even to his own ears. "Well, you're seeing it." She gestured around the room. "We're about 60% complete. The main lighting installation happens tomorrow. It looks amazing. Thank you." An awkward silence fell between them. Workers moved around them, carrying supplies and equipment. Music played softly from somewhere, but in their small bubble, everything felt tense and unsaid. "Can I help?" Ethan blurted out. Zoe's eyebrows rose. "Help? Yeah. I mean, it's my company's event. I should be involved." She studied him for a long moment. "Do you have experience with event setup?" "No, but I can follow directions." "Can you?" The question hung in the air, layered with meaning. Ethan met her eyes. "I'd like to try." Zoe seemed to war with herself. Finally, she sighed. "Fine, come with me." She led him to a table full of wine glasses that needed to be polished and arranged. "Think you can handle this?" "Sure." She handed him a soft cloth and showed him the technique, gentle circular motions checking for smudges in the light. Then she walked away to direct someone else, leaving him with crates of glasses. Ethan got to work. It was mindless, repetitive labor. Normally he'd consider it beneath him, but today it felt almost meditative. Polish a glass, hold it up to the light, check for streaks, set it carefully on the table. He'd done maybe 20 glasses when Zoe came back. "Not bad," she said, examining his work. "You actually listen when someone shows you how to do something." "I'm trying to." She picked up a cloth and joined him, working on the glasses beside him. They fell into a quiet rhythm together. "Why are you really here?" Zoe asked after a while. Ethan kept his eyes on the glass in his hand. "I wanted to apologize." "For what? Being my client? For what I said that night at the bar?" Zoe's hands paused, then continued working. "You don't owe me an apology. You're entitled to your preferences." It wasn't about preferences. It was about being small and scared and taking it out on people who didn't deserve it. She looked at him now. "Why were you scared?" He hesitated. This wasn't a conversation he'd planned, but something about working side by side, not looking directly at each other, made it easier to be honest. "My ex-fiancée left me 6 months ago," he said, "for someone richer. The tabloids had a field day with it. They said I wasn't enough, even with all my money. So I tried to make myself feel bigger by making other people seem smaller. It was stupid and wrong." Zoe set down her cloth. "That must have hurt." "It did, but it didn't give me the right to hurt others." "No, it didn't." They stood in silence. Ethan finally looked at her. "I am sorry, truly." Zoe met his gaze. "I believe you're sorry you got caught. I believe you're sorry you have to work with me now. But I don't know if you're sorry for the belief itself." Her words hit him like cold water. because she was right. He'd been sorry about the inconvenience, the embarrassment, but had he really examined the ugly thinking behind his words? "You're right," he admitted. "I have a lot to learn." "Yes, you do." She picked up her cloth again. "But at least you're willing to admit it. That's more than most people." They worked together for another hour. Ethan followed Zoe around like a shadow, helping where he could, staying out of the way when needed. At one point, he was carrying a box of champagne bottles when he tripped over a light cord. The box tilted. Bottles wobbled. He scrambled to keep them from falling. Zoe rushed over to steady the box. Together, they got it safely to the ground. When they looked up, they were standing very close, both slightly out of breath. And then Zoe laughed. It started as a small chuckle and grew into real laughter, bright and genuine. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "You just looked so panicked, like the bottles were going to explode." Ethan found himself laughing too. They're champagne, they kind of do explode. Fair point. They both laughed harder, the tension breaking like a dam. For a moment, they were just two people who'd had a close call with expensive alcohol. Nothing more, nothing less. When the laughter faded, Zoe wiped her eyes. "Thank you for helping today. Surprisingly, you weren't completely useless." "High praise," Ethan said, smiling. "Don't let it go to your head." But she was smiling too. As the afternoon light started to dim, workers began packing up for the day. Zoe walked through the space one more time, checking details, adjusting small things. Ethan watched her work. She moved with such purpose, such care. Every choice she made was intentional. She wasn't just decorating a room. She was creating an experience, a feeling, a memory for people she'd never meet. "You really love this, don't you?" he asked. Zoe turned, surprised he was still there. "I do. Events are moments in time. They matter to people. Birthdays, weddings, celebrations. I get to help make those moments beautiful. It's more than just making things look expensive. Much more." He nodded slowly, understanding something he hadn't before. "Thank you for letting me help today." "You're welcome. Don't make me regret it." As he walked to his car in the parking lot, Ethan realized he was smiling. Actually smiling, not the fake smile he wore in board meetings. And for the first time in months, the emptiness inside him felt a little less empty. His phone buzzed. A text from Miles. "How'd it go?" Ethan typed back, "Better than I deserved." Miles replied, "That's not saying much." Ethan looked back at the building where Zoe was still working, making beauty out of bare space. He thought about her laugh, the way she'd called him out, but still given him a chance. The way she moved through the world with grace, even after hearing him say something ugly. Maybe Miles was right. Maybe he was in trouble. But for the first time in a long time, Ethan thought that might not be such a bad thing. The next morning, Zoe stood in her small studio apartment staring at her closet. Her best friend Carla sat on the bed behind her, scrolling through her phone. "Just wear the black pants and that green blouse," Carla said without looking up. "You always look good in green." "I'm not trying to look good," Zoe muttered. "I'm trying to look professional." "Those things aren't mutually exclusive." Carla finally looked up, her dark eyes sharp with curiosity. "So you're really going back? After what he said?" Zoe pulled out the green blouse. "He's the client. The gala is in a week. I have a job to finish. He's also the jerk who said he only dates pale women who look expensive." "I know what he said, Carla." "And you're just going to work with him like nothing happened?" Zoe turned to face her friend. Carla Torres had been her business partner and best friend for 3 years. They'd started Moments by Z together after Zoe's engagement had fallen apart. Carla handled the business side, while Zoe focused on design. More importantly, Carla always told her the truth, even when it hurt. "He apologized," Zoe said quietly. "So? People apologize all the time. Doesn't mean they've changed. He helped me set up yesterday, got his expensive suit dirty moving boxes, almost dropped a crate of champagne." Carla's eyebrows shot up. "Ethan Cole did manual labor?" "He did. And he didn't do it for show. There were no cameras, no audience, just me and the workers." Zoe sat down on the bed. "I think he's trying, Carla. Or he's trying to make you think he's trying, so you'll forgive him and make his gala beautiful and he can take all the credit." Zoe's phone buzzed. A text from Sarah Jenkins. "Final walkthrough today at 2 p.m. Can you make it?" "I have to go," Zoe said, standing up. "The venue needs final approval." Carla grabbed her hand. "Just be careful, okay? Men like him, men with money and power, they're used to getting what they want. Don't let him make you feel small just because he's learning to feel guilty." "I won't," Zoe promised. But as she drove to the venue, Carla's words echoed in her mind. The ballroom looked even better in the daylight. The blue and gold theme had come together perfectly. Zoe walked through slowly, checking every detail, the table settings, the lighting angles, the flow of space. Everything had to be right. It's beautiful. She turned. Ethan stood near the entrance wearing jeans and a casual shirt. He looked different without a suit. Younger, less guarded. Thank you, Zoe said. Where's Sarah? She got caught in a meeting. Asked me to do the walkthrough. He walked closer. Is that okay? Zoe wanted to say no, wanted to demand someone else, someone neutral, but this was his event, his company. She couldn't exactly refuse. Fine, let's start over here. She led him through the space, explaining her choices. The fabric that caught the light in certain ways, the table arrangements that encouraged conversation, the small touches that made a big difference, fresh flowers with subtle fragrance, comfortable chairs, strategic placement of the bar and appetizer stations. You've thought of everything, Ethan said. That's my job. They reached the main floral centerpieces. Zoe had designed them herself, mixing expensive roses with wildflowers in a way that looked elegant but not pretentious. These are different, Ethan observed. Most fancy events just use roses. Roses are beautiful, but they're expected. I wanted something that felt more alive, more real. She touched one of the wildflowers gently. My mother taught me this. She owns a small flower shop. She always said the most expensive flower isn't always the most beautiful one. Ethan went quiet. Zoe glanced at him and saw something shift in his expression. Your mother's a florist? He asked. For 20 years. She built the business from nothing after my father died. Zoe smiled, remembering. She knows more about flowers than anyone I've ever met. These arrangements, the way I mix the expensive with the simple, I learned that from her. She sounds amazing. She is. They continued the walkthrough. Ethan asked thoughtful questions, really listening to her answers. He noticed small details Zoe hadn't expected anyone to see, the way the lights cast shadows that added depth, how the table placement created natural gathering points. You have a good eye, Zoe said, surprised. I'm learning to look past the surface. He met her gaze. Trying to, anyway. Before she could respond, her phone rang. It was Carla. Sorry, I need to take this. Zoe stepped away. Hey, what's up? Zoe, something weird just happened. Carla's voice was excited. Your mum called. Someone made a huge donation to her shop, anonymous, like enough to cover that renovation she's been saving for. Zoe's heart skipped. What? How much? $20,000. Just appeared in the shop's account this morning with a note that said, for creating beauty in the world. Zoe's mind raced. $20,000. That was exactly what her mother needed to fix the roof, update the coolers, and expand the workspace. She'd been saving for 2 years, but money was always tight. Who would do that? Zoe asked. No idea, but your mum's crying happy tears, so whoever it is, they're an angel. After she hung up, Zoe stood very still. An anonymous donation. Right after she'd told Ethan about her mother's shop. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. She walked back to where Ethan waited. He was studying the ceiling, hands in his pockets. Everything okay? He asked. Zoe looked at him carefully. My mother just received an anonymous donation. $20,000. Something flickered across his face, just for a second, before he schooled his expression. That's wonderful. She must be thrilled. She is. Zoe moved closer. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Why would I? Because I mentioned her shop yesterday, and today out of nowhere this happens. Ethan turned to face her fully. Maybe you have other admirers who believe in supporting small businesses. Do I? He held her gaze. If someone wanted to help, would that be so terrible? It depends on why they're doing it. Maybe they're doing it because your mother deserves it, because she built something real from nothing, because creating beauty matters. He paused. Not everything has to be complicated, Zoe. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her mother. Baby, can you come over tonight? I have to show you the plans for the shop. Zoe looked from her phone to Ethan. She wanted to be angry, wanted to accuse him of trying to buy her forgiveness, but something in his expression stopped her. If someone did help my mother, she said slowly, I'd want to thank them. I'm sure they already know, Ethan replied. Sometimes the thank you is in the smile. Before Zoe could respond, Sarah rushed in, breathless and apologetic. I'm so sorry I'm late. How does everything look? Perfect, Ethan said, still looking at Zoe. Absolutely perfect. That evening, Zoe drove to her mother's house in the suburbs. It was a small, neat place with a garden that was her mother's pride. Even in November, there were still a few hardy flowers blooming. Lorraine Daniels opened the door before Zoe could knock. She was a small woman with silver hair and her daughter's warm eyes. Right now those eyes were shining with tears. "Baby," she pulled Zoe into a tight hug. "Can you believe it? $20,000. They sat at the kitchen table, the place where Zoe had done homework as a child, where her mother had taught her about flowers and life. Lorraine had plans spread out, drawings of the renovated shop, lists of equipment to buy, color swatches for new walls. "I can finally fix everything," Lorraine said, her voice thick with emotion. "The roof, the coolers, everything, and I'll have money left over for inventory. Real inventory, not just the basics." "I'm so happy for you, Mum." Lorraine looked at her daughter closely. "You don't seem surprised." Zoe hesitated. "I might have an idea who did it." "Who?" "A client. Ethan Cole." Lorraine's smile faded. "The man from the bar? The one who said those awful things?" Zoe had told her mother about that night, had needed to vent to someone who would understand the hurt beneath the anger. "Yes, but Mum, he's different than I thought. He's been helping with the event setup. Apologized. And yesterday I told him about your shop, how you'd built it from nothing. Today the money appears." Lorraine sat back in her chair. "Baby, be careful. Men with money and power, they know how to make grand gestures, but gestures don't change character." "I know. Do you?" Her mother reached across the table. "Your father was a good man, but even he had to prove himself through actions, not words or gifts. This Ethan, he said something that revealed who he really is. One donation doesn't erase that. He's trying to change. Maybe. Or maybe he's trying to impress you." Lorraine squeezed her hand. "I'm not saying reject the help. Lord knows I need it. But don't confuse his guilt with growth. Don't teach men manners at the cost of your peace." Later that night, lying in her bed, Zoe stared at the ceiling. Her mother's words mixed with Carla's warnings. They were both right to be cautious. She'd been hurt before by a man who'd seemed perfect until he wasn't. Her ex-fiancé, Marcus, had proposed after 2 years together. Then, 3 months before the wedding, he'd admitted he wasn't ready, that she was too intense, that he needed someone easier. The real translation, he'd wanted someone who didn't challenge him, who made him feel big by being small. She'd spent a year rebuilding herself after that, building her business, learning to trust her own strength. She wasn't about to let another man make her feel like she was too much or not enough. But Ethan felt different. Yes, he'd said something terrible, but he'd owned it, faced her, tried to learn. And that donation, if it was him, wasn't done for show. There were no cameras, no public announcement, just quiet help for someone who needed it. Her phone lit up with a text. From Ethan. "You didn't have to do that." She stared at the message, confused. Then another text came through. "I know. That's why it mattered." Zoe's heart did something complicated in her chest. She typed back, "Did you really think I wouldn't figure it out?" His response came quickly. "I hoped you would, but I didn't do it for credit. I did it because she deserves it." Zoe read the message 3 times. Then she set her phone down and pulled her blanket closer. Outside, the November wind rattled the windows. Inside, something warm and terrifying was starting to grow. 2 days before the gala, dark clouds rolled over the city. By afternoon, rain pounded the streets. Zoe stood in the ballroom, watching workers install the final lighting fixtures, when the power flickered. Once, twice. Then everything went dark. "Everyone stay calm," Zoe called out. "Let's wait a moment. It might come back." It didn't. After 10 minutes, people started using their phone flashlights. The venue manager came by to say the whole block was out. Power company estimated 2 hours before restoration. "We can't work in the dark," one of the workers said. "I know," Zoe sighed. "Everyone take a break. We'll resume when the lights come back." The workers filed out, grateful for unexpected time off. Zoe stayed, using her phone light to check her task list. So much still to do. The gala was in 48 hours. "Need some light?" She turned. Ethan stood in the doorway, holding a box of tall candles. "Where did you get those?" she asked. "Emergency kit in my car. I always keep supplies." He walked in, setting candles on tables, lighting them one by one. The warm glow filled the space, softer and more intimate than the electric lights. "You really do come prepared," Zoe said. "Sometimes." He lit the last candle, though usually I'm prepared for the wrong things. They stood in the candlelit ballroom, rain drumming against the windows. Without the bright lights, everything felt different, quieter, more honest somehow. "We should go over the final schedule," Zoe said, pulling out her tablet, but the battery was dead. "Of course. We could just talk," Ethan suggested. No phones, no plans, just conversation. Zoe hesitated. But what else were they going to do for 2 hours in the dark? They sat at one of the decorated tables, candles flickering between them. The rain created a steady rhythm against the windows. "Tell me something real," Ethan said suddenly. "What?" "Something real about you. Not about work or business. Something that matters." Zoe studied him in the candlelight. "Why?" "Because I realized I don't really know you. I know you're talented and professional and kind, but I don't know what makes you laugh or what keeps you up at night or what you dream about when you let yourself dream." She could have deflected, could have kept things surface level and professional, but something about the darkness, the candles, the rain, it made her want to be honest. "I dream about creating something permanent," she said. "Events are beautiful, but they end. People go home. The decorations come down. I want to build something that lasts, maybe a school for event design, maybe a community center where people can celebrate life's moments even if they can't afford expensive venues." Ethan leaned forward. "That's beautiful. It's just a dream. Dreams matter. They're the only things that do." "What about you?" Zoe asked. "What do you dream about?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I don't know anymore. I used to dream about success, money, proving I was better than my father thought I was. And I got all of it. Built a company, made millions, bought everything I wanted, but none of it filled the space inside." "What space?" "The one that asks, 'Is this all there is?'" He looked at her. "My father was cold, criticized everything I did. Nothing was ever good enough. So I spent my whole life trying to be successful enough, rich enough, powerful enough to prove him wrong. And when I finally had everything, I realized he was still in my head, still judging me, and I still felt empty." Zoe reached across the table without thinking, touching his hand. "That must be lonely." "It is." He turned his hand over, his fingers brushing hers. "Until recently I thought lonely was just how life was. You achieve things, you get respect, but you're always separate, always performing. And now I'm starting to think I was wrong about a lot of things." His eyes met hers in the candlelight. "You make me want to be different. Not perform differently, be different. Actually grow into someone better." Zoe's breath caught. This wasn't the arrogant man from the rooftop bar. This was someone raw and real, showing her his wounds. "I was engaged once," she heard herself say. 3 years ago. We were 3 months from the wedding when he ended it. Said I was too intense, too much, that he needed someone easier. He was an idiot. Maybe. So maybe I am too much, too opinionated, too driven, too unwilling to shrink myself. Those aren't flaws, Zoe, those are strengths. Not everyone sees it that way." Ethan's hand closed around hers. "Then they're looking at you wrong. You're not too much. You're exactly enough, exactly right." Thunder rumbled outside. The candles flickered but held steady. In that moment, sitting in the dark with rain falling and honest words hanging in the air, something shifted between them. Something that felt both terrifying and inevitable. "I'm scared," Zoe admitted. "Of what?" "Of this. Of you. Of wanting something that might hurt me again." "I'm scared too," Ethan said. "I'm scared I'll mess this up, that I'll fall back into old patterns, that I'm not capable of being the man you deserve. Maybe we can be scared together." He smiled, soft and genuine. "I'd like that." The power flickered back on. Harsh fluorescent lights flooded the space, breaking the spell. They both blinked in the sudden brightness, hands still touching across the table. Workers started filing back in, ready to resume. Zoe pulled her hand back, suddenly aware of how close they'd been, how much she'd revealed. "I should get back to work," she said, standing up. "Zoe, thank you for the candles." She grabbed her things, needing distance, needing air. "I'll see you at the gala." She walked out into the rain, not caring that she was getting soaked. Her heart pounded. Her hands shook, because somewhere in that dark room, surrounded by candlelight and honesty, she'd started to fall. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The night of the gala arrived with perfect weather, clear skies, cool air, the city lights sparkling like promises. Zoe stood in the ballroom watching guests arrive in their elegant clothes. Everything looked perfect. The blue and gold theme glowed under the lights. The flowers released their subtle fragrance. The music was soft and welcoming. She'd done it, created something beautiful. "You should be proud," Carla said, appearing beside her. She'd come as Zoe's guest, looking stunning in a silver dress. "This is your best work yet." "Our best work," Zoe corrected. "You handled all the contracts and scheduling. Please, this is all you. I just made sure people paid on time." They watched as more guests arrived, business executives, local celebrities, donors, and reporters. Everyone who was anyone in the city had come, and then Ethan walked in. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit. His hair was styled just right. He looked every inch the successful CEO, but when his eyes found Zoe across the room, his expression softened into something private, something just for her. He walked over, navigating through the crowd with ease. "Ms. Daniels," he said formally, but his eyes were warm. "Everything looks incredible. Thank you, Mr. Cole. Your event is ready." Carla nudged Zoe subtly. "I'm going to get a drink. Try not to stare at each other too obviously." She left, leaving them alone in a room full of people. "You look beautiful," Ethan said quietly. Zoe had chosen a deep blue dress that matched the event's theme. Simple, elegant, nothing flashy. "I tried to fit in." "You don't fit in, you stand out. Always." Before she could respond, a woman in a white dress approached. She was tall, blonde, and dripped with diamonds. Her smile was sharp. "Ethan, darling." The woman air-kissed both his cheeks. "I almost didn't recognize you hiding over here." Ethan's expression went carefully blank. "Tanya, I didn't know you were coming." Tanya, his ex-fiancée. Zoe felt her stomach drop. "Of course I came. I support your little charity events." Tanya's eyes slid to Zoe, assessing and dismissing in one glance. "And who is this?" "Zoe Daniels. She's the event designer." "Oh, how sweet. You hired a small business." Tanya's tone was syrupy. "I love supporting those little startups that need help." Zoe felt the insult land. Moments by Z wasn't a struggling startup. They were successful, professional, growing. But Tanya had made it sound like charity work. "We're actually quite established," Zoe said calmly. "I'm sure you are, dear. Everyone has to start somewhere." Tanya linked her arm through Ethan's. "Darling, we should mingle. So many important people here tonight." Ethan looked at Zoe, something pleading in his eyes. But he didn't pull away from Tanya, didn't defend Zoe or correct Tanya's condescension. He just let himself be led away into the crowd. Zoe stood frozen. Around her, people laughed and drank and admired her work. But all she could see was Ethan walking away with his ex-fiancée, choosing his comfortable old life over saying one word in her defense. Carla appeared at her side. "Did I just see what I think I saw?" "Yeah." "Want me to spill wine on her white dress?" "No." Zoe straightened her shoulders. "I have work to do. The evening's just starting." She threw herself into managing the event, making sure caterers stayed on schedule, that the program ran smoothly, that every detail was perfect. She didn't look for Ethan in the crowd, didn't let herself care where he was or who he was talking to, but when it was time for speeches, she couldn't avoid it. The lights dimmed. Ethan took the stage, microphone in hand. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight to support educational programs for underprivileged youth." His speech was polished, rehearsed. He talked about opportunity and giving back, about the importance of community, safe words that pleased the donors. Then he paused, looked around the room. When he spoke again, his voice was different, less rehearsed, more real. "I also want to thank someone who made this evening possible. Zoe Daniels designed this space. But more than that, she taught me something important. She showed me that real beauty isn't about expense or status. It's about care, about bringing together the elegant and the authentic, about creating something that matters." The crowd murmured appreciatively. Zoe felt eyes turning toward her. "She made this place more beautiful than money ever could," Ethan continued, his eyes finding hers across the room, "and I'll be grateful for that for a long time." Applause filled the ballroom. People smiled at Zoe, raised their glasses. It was professional recognition, public praise, everything she'd worked for. So why did it feel hollow? Because Tanya stood near the bar, smirking. Because Ethan's words were beautiful, but his actions had been weak. Because he'd walked away when she'd needed him to stand beside her. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Guests left happy, praising the event. Donations exceeded expectations. By any measure, it was a complete success. But as Zoe helped pack up equipment at midnight, exhaustion crashed over her. Not just physical tiredness, something deeper, bone-deep disappointment. "Need a ride?" Ethan stood nearby, jacket slung over his shoulder, tie loosened. "I'll walk," Zoe said. "It's not far. It's late. Let me drive you." "I said I'll walk. Then I'll walk with you." Zoe stopped packing. "Why?" "Because I want to. Even though your ex-fiancé might see. Even though it might damage your image." Ethan flinched. "About that, Don't. Zoe held up her hand. Don't apologize for something you'll do again. You let her insult me and my business. You walked away. Actions matter more than pretty speeches, Ethan. I know, and I'm sorry. I froze. Seeing Tanya again, I just froze. That's what scares me. Zoe looked at him sadly. When it matters, when people are watching, you'll always choose the comfortable thing, the thing that protects your image. That's not fair. Maybe not, but it's true. She finished packing her things and walked toward the exit. Ethan followed. Let me walk you home, he said again. Please. Zoe was too tired to argue. They walked through empty city streets, their footsteps echoing. The November air was cold enough to see their breath. I was afraid, Ethan said after a few blocks. When Tanya showed up, all my old insecurities came flooding back. The embarrassment of being left, of not being enough. I reverted to the guy who lets things happen instead of standing up. At least you're honest about it. I don't want to be that guy anymore. They walked in silence for a while. The city felt peaceful at this hour. Just them and the streetlights and the occasional passing car. She was wrong about your business, Ethan said. You're not a small startup that needs help. You're incredibly talented. Tonight proved that. Thank you. But I should have said that when she was standing there. I should have told her to respect you. I should have done a lot of things differently. They reached Zoe's building. She stopped at the entrance, keys in hand. You know what the sad thing is? Zoe said softly. That speech you gave, it was beautiful. You meant every word. But you'll always care more about your image than actually living those words. That's not true, isn't it? She met his eyes. You make everything I thought I wanted look small. That's what you said. But Ethan, I don't want to make your world look small. I want someone who can match me, stand beside me, defend me when it matters. I can be that person. Can you? Or will you always be the guy who freezes when his ex shows up, who gives beautiful speeches but can't say one word when I'm being disrespected to my face? Ethan looked broken. I don't know, but I want to try. I want to grow bigger, like you said. Zoe felt tears threatening. Then grow. Actually grow. Don't just talk about it. She turned toward her door. Ethan caught her hand gently. You make everything I thought I wanted look small, he repeated. Because you are everything I didn't know I needed. Real, honest, strong. You don't fit into my old life, Zoe. You demand a new one, a better one, and that terrifies me. But I want it anyway. She looked at their joined hands. I can't teach you how to be brave. That's work you have to do yourself. I know, and I can't wait around hoping you'll change. I deserve someone who's already grown. You do, you deserve everything. Zoe pulled her hand away gently. Good night, Ethan. She walked inside, not looking back. But through the glass door, she could see him standing there in the streetlight, looking lost. In her apartment, she kicked off her heels and sat on her couch. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. How did it go? Another from Carla. That speech was something. You okay? Zoe didn't answer either. She just sat in the dark, thinking about pretty words and weak actions, about a man who wanted to change but didn't know how, about her own heart, which was starting to hope, despite every warning to stop. The next morning, Zoe woke to her phone exploding with notifications, messages, missed calls, social media mentions. She grabbed it groggily and opened the first notification. It was a news article. The headline made her blood run cold. Tech CEO caught being a hypocrite. Old footage reveals racist dating preference. Below it was video footage from the rooftop bar. Someone had recorded Ethan's speech that night. His voice was crystal clear. I like women who look expensive, pale skin, designer clothes. The article went on to point out that Ethan had recently been seen with Zoe at the gala. Comments called him a hypocrite, accused him of using her for good publicity, questioned whether his change of heart was genuine or performative. But worse were the comments about her. People saying she'd been fooled, that she was naive, that she should have known better than to trust a rich white man who'd said something like that. Zoe's hands shook. She'd known about his words, had heard them herself, but seeing them broadcast, analyzed, turned into entertainment for strangers, it felt like being stripped naked in public. Her phone rang. Carla. Have you seen it? Carla asked. Yes. Are you okay? No. Want me to come over? I need to be alone. After hanging up, Zoe did something she rarely did. She turned off her phone and pulled her blankets over her head. Outside, the world was judging her, discussing her, making assumptions. Inside, under her covers, she could pretend none of it existed, but she couldn't hide forever. Eventually, she had to face it. By evening, she turned her phone back on. More messages flooded in. Most were supportive, friends defending her, clients expressing concern, but some were cruel. People she'd never met had opinions about her intelligence, her self-respect, her choices. One message stood out. From Ethan. "I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I'll fix it." Zoe stared at those words. "I'll fix it." Like this was a problem he could solve with money or power. Like her humiliation could be fixed at all. She typed back one line. "You'll always care more about your image." Then she blocked his number. Because Carla was right, her mother was right. Grand gestures didn't change character. Pretty speeches didn't create courage. And she was done teaching men how to be better at the cost of her own peace. She was done with Ethan Cole. 1 week passed, then 2. Zoe threw herself into work. A corporate anniversary party, a retirement celebration, a small wedding. Each event kept her hands busy and her mind occupied. But at night, alone in her apartment, the quiet was too loud. Carla tried to cheer her up. Movie nights with ice cream, long walks through the city, coffee shop conversations about everything except Ethan Cole. But Zoe could feel the hole inside her. She'd started to trust someone, started to believe in possibility, and then reality had crashed in, reminding her why walls existed in the first place. "You need to talk about it," Carla said one afternoon at the studio. They were reviewing proposals for upcoming events. But Zoe kept losing focus. "There's nothing to talk about. You've been avoiding any news about him, any mention of his name. That's not healing. That's hiding. I'm protecting myself. From what? He can't hurt you anymore. You blocked him, remember?" Zoe set down her pen. "He showed me something I wanted. Then he showed me why I couldn't have it. That's worse than never seeing it at all." Carla's expression softened. "He really got to you, didn't he?" "For a minute, yeah. I thought maybe he was different. Maybe he was actually changing. But people don't change, Carla. They just get better at pretending. That's not fair. People can grow." "Maybe, but I'm not going to wait around to find out." That evening, Zoe's mother came to visit. She brought homemade soup and the determined look that meant a serious conversation was coming. They ate in comfortable silence at first. Then Lorraine set down her spoon. "Baby, you can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Punishing yourself for hoping." Zoe looked up, surprised. "I'm not." "You are. You let yourself care about that man, and when things got hard, you ran. Now you're sitting here telling yourself it was the smart choice, the safe choice, but I can see it's eating you alive. He walked away when I needed him, Mama. He let his ex insult me. Then old footage of him came out saying horrible things, and I looked like a fool. You looked like someone who gave grace to a person trying to change. There's no shame in that. Everyone's judging me. Let them. People will always have opinions, but you're the one who has to live with your choices." Lorraine reached across the table. "Silence won't heal what still hurts, baby. You need to face it, talk to him, get real closure or real understanding, but don't just sit here pretending you're over it when your eyes tell a different story." After her mother left, Zoe sat alone with her soup growing cold. She thought about that night in the candlelit ballroom, the honesty, the connection, the way Ethan had looked at her like she was the only real thing in his carefully constructed world. Then she thought about him walking away with Tanya, choosing comfort over courage. Which version was the real Ethan Cole? Her phone buzzed. A message from Adele Brooks, Ethan's housekeeper. They'd exchanged numbers during the gala planning, coordinating logistics. Zoe almost deleted it unread, but curiosity won. "Miss Daniels, I know you've blocked Ethan, but I thought you should know. He's not pretending anymore. Whatever you did to him, it stuck. He's not the same man. Adele." Zoe stared at the message. What did that even mean? How could Adele tell the difference between real change and performance? She typed back, "How can you tell?" Adele's response came quickly. "Because he stopped caring what anyone thinks. He's been living different, not just talking different. But I understand if you don't want to know, just thought you deserved the truth." Zoe set her phone down. Her heart was beating too fast. She wanted to ignore the message, go back to her safe bubble of hurt and distance. But her mother's words echoed, "Silence won't heal what still hurts." Maybe it was time to face it. The next day, Zoe was reviewing fabric samples when someone knocked on her studio door. Through the frosted glass, she could see a tall figure. Her stomach dropped. She knew that silhouette. She opened the door. Ethan stood there and her breath caught. He looked different, thinner maybe, tired, but something in his eyes was clearer, more settled. "I know you blocked me," he said quietly. "And I respect that, but I needed to see you just once to say what I need to say. Ethan, please, 5 minutes, then I'll leave and never bother you again if that's what you want." Zoe should have said no, should have closed the door, but something in his voice, something raw and honest, made her step aside. He walked in, looking around the small studio. Her design boards, her fabric swatches, her vision boards for upcoming projects. This was her world, and he was clearly out of place in his expensive coat. "I went on television," Ethan said, turning to face her. 3 days after the footage came out, my PR team told me to stay silent, let it blow over, but I couldn't. So I went on that morning show, you know, the one where they tear people apart. I didn't see it. I know. You've been avoiding anything about me, and I don't blame you." He took a breath. "I told them everything. About my father, about Tanya, about the insecurity that made me say those things. I took full responsibility, didn't make excuses, just owned it." "Okay," Zoe said carefully. "That's good, I guess. But more than that, I've been different. Not performing different, actually living different." He pulled out his phone, pulled up something and handed it to her. It was a photo. Ethan in casual clothes, surrounded by teenagers, teaching them something on a computer. The caption read, "Tech Basics for Underserved Youth, Week 3. "I've been volunteering," he explained, "teaching kids coding and design software. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening. No cameras, no PR team, just me and kids who need someone to believe in them." Zoe scrolled through more photos. Ethan helping a girl with her project, laughing with a group of boys, looking genuinely happy in a way she'd never seen. "Why?" she asked. "Because you were right. I was all talk, grand gestures and pretty speeches. But real change happens in the small moments, the ones nobody sees." He took back his phone but pulled out something else, a small notebook, worn and filled with handwritten notes. "I've been going to therapy," he continued, "twice a week, working through all the things my father put in my head, all the ways I learned to measure worth by wealth. It's hard. Some days I want to quit, but then I remember what you said, about growing bigger." Zoe felt her walls cracking. This wasn't the performance she'd expected. This was vulnerable, messy, real. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I'm not here to win you back. I'm not here to prove I've changed, so you'll give me another chance." He looked at her with heartbreaking honesty. "I'm here to mean it, to show you that what you said to me, about grace and growth and standing beside someone, it mattered. You changed me, Zoe. And even if you never want to see me again, I wanted you to know that." Silence filled the studio. Outside, traffic hummed. Inside, Zoe's heart was doing complicated things. "I was scared," she admitted finally. "When that footage came out, I felt humiliated, like I'd been stupid to believe you were changing." "You weren't stupid. You gave grace to someone who didn't deserve it yet. That takes courage." It felt like weakness. It wasn't. He moved closer, but not too close, respecting her space. "You know what I realized? When Tanya showed up at the gala and I froze, I wasn't afraid of her. I was afraid of you. Afraid that if I chose you publicly, declared it in front of everyone, I'd be vulnerable. You'd have power to hurt me. So I took the coward's way out. And now I know that vulnerability is the only way to something real. And I'd rather be hurt trying to be real with you than safe and fake with anyone else." Zoe wanted to resist, wanted to stay angry and protected, but looking at him now, at this version of Ethan who'd stripped away the performance, she saw something she recognized. Someone trying, actually trying. "I need time," she said, "to think, to figure out if I can trust this." "I understand." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Can I ask one thing? Would you get coffee with me? Not a date. Just coffee. Let me show you who I'm becoming. And if after that you still want me gone, I'll respect it." Zoe knew she should say no, should protect herself, but her mother's words came back. "Silence won't heal what still hurts." "One coffee," she said. "Tomorrow afternoon. The cafe on 5th Street. His smile was small but genuine. "Thank you." After he left, Zoe sat in her studio for a long time. Carla would tell her she was being foolish. Her mother would urge caution. Every logical part of her brain was screaming warnings, but her heart, her stubborn, hopeful heart, was whispering something different. Maybe. The cafe was busy with the lunch crowd clearing out. Zoe sat at a corner table, nursing a latte she didn't really taste. She'd almost cancelled 3 times that morning. Then Ethan walked in. He wore jeans and a simple sweater. No expensive watch, no designer accessories. He looked like a regular person getting regular coffee on a regular afternoon. He ordered, "Just black coffee, nothing fancy," and sat across from her. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I almost didn't." "I wouldn't have blamed you." They sat in awkward silence for a moment. Around them, people laughed and typed on laptops and lived their normal lives. No one recognized Ethan or cared about their drama. "I don't know how to do this," Ethan admitted. "The honest version, I mean. Usually I'd have a plan, a strategy, but you make me want to just be. Being is harder than performing," Zoe said. "Yeah, I'm learning that." He took a sip of coffee. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" "Okay. My father died last year. Heart attack, quick, no warning." Ethan's voice was steady, but his eyes held old pain. "And my first thought wasn't sadness, it was relief. Then guilt about the relief. Then anger that even dead, he still had power over me." Zoe reached across the table instinctively, touching his hand. "I'm sorry. He never said he was proud of me. Not once. I built a multi-million-dollar company and all he said was, 'Don't get cocky.' So I kept chasing more. More money, more success, more everything. Trying to fill the space where his approval should have been. You can't fill that space with achievement," Zoe said gently. "I learned that too. After my fiancé left, I tried to prove I was enough by being perfect. Perfect work, perfect life, perfect control. But perfect is just another prison. So how did you break out?" "I let myself be imperfect. Let myself need people. Let myself care about things that mattered more than being right." She smiled sadly. "Though apparently, I'm still learning that lesson." They talked for 2 hours, about childhoods and failures, about dreams and fears, about the ways people hurt each other without meaning to, and the ways they heal when they choose to try. When the cafe started closing, they walked along the riverfront. November had turned into early December, and the air bit with cold, but the sky was clear, stars visible despite the city lights. "I want to show you something," Ethan said, pulling out his phone. He opened a document. "This is a business plan for a community center that offers free event space and design education. I've been working on it with my financial advisor. The center would be in an underserved neighborhood, staffed by professional designers who want to give back." Zoe read through it, stunned. It was detailed, thoughtful, exactly the kind of thing she'd dreamed about that night in the candlelit ballroom. "This is my dream," she whispered. "I know. You told me. And I thought, if I'm going to change, I should change towards something that matters, not just away from who I was. Ethan, this would cost millions. I have millions. What good are they if I don't use them for something real?" She looked up at him. In the lamplight, his face was open and honest. No performance, no mask. Just a man trying to be better. "You're really different," she said. "I'm trying to be." "Why? Really why? Don't say it's because of me." "But it is because of you. Not to win you. I know I might never deserve that. But because you showed me there was more to life than the small, scared version I was living. You made me want to be brave enough for something real." Zoe felt tears threatening. "I'm scared of wanting this, of hoping again. Me too. But maybe we can be scared together, like you said." She thought about all the warnings, about protection and walls and smart choices. Then she thought about the man who'd walked away from Tanya at the gala after Zoe left, who'd gone on television to own his mistakes, who'd spent weeks volunteering with kids nobody else cared about, who'd taken her dream and tried to make it real. "Forgiveness isn't love," she said, echoing what she'd told him that night. "It's the start of it." "I'll take the start," Ethan said, "if you'll give it to me." Zoe made a decision. "I want to see you try. Not words, actions. Show me you've changed. Earn this." "How?" "Be steady, be honest, be present. No grand gestures, just show up." "I can do that. And if you ever make me feel small again, if you walk away when I need you, I'm done. No second chances after this one." "Understood." They walked back in silence, but it was a different kind of silence. Comfortable, full of possibility rather than distance. At her door, Ethan didn't try to kiss her, didn't ask for more than she'd offered. "Thank you for the coffee," he said, "and for the chance. Don't waste it." "I won't." As she watched him walk away, Zoe felt something shift inside her. Not certainty, not safety, but hope. Fragile and terrifying and real. Maybe this time it would be different. Over the next month, Ethan showed up. He came to her studio twice a week, helping with whatever she needed. Moving furniture, organizing supplies, even doing mundane tasks like filing paperwork. He never complained, never acted like he was too important for the work. He invited her to see his volunteer work. She watched him teach teenagers coding, saw how patient he was when they struggled, how he celebrated their small victories like they mattered, because to him, they did. They had dinner once a week, nothing fancy. Neighborhood restaurants, where they could talk without performance. He told her about therapy sessions, about breakthroughs and setbacks. She shared her own struggles, the lingering fear from her broken engagement, the pressure of building a business. Carla remained skeptical, but admitted Ethan seemed different. Zoe's mother watched carefully but said, "Time will tell. Character shows in consistency, not conversation." And Ethan was consistent. When Zoe had a crisis with a difficult client, he listened without trying to fix it. When she was stressed about money, he offered advice but didn't offer cash, respecting that she needed to build her success herself. When she had a bad day and snapped at him, he didn't get defensive. He just asked what she needed. He showed up, over and over, in small ways, quiet ways. One evening, Zoe invited him to her studio. "I want to show you something." She pulled out designs for a new business venture. "I've been thinking about your community center idea, and I want to be part of it. Not as someone you're helping, but as a partner. My expertise, your resources, building something together." Ethan looked through her designs, his face lighting up. "This is brilliant. You've thought of everything. I want this to be ours. Not yours, not mine. Ours. Equal partnership." "I'd love that." They spent the next few hours planning, bouncing ideas off each other. The center would offer free event space for community celebrations, design classes for kids and adults, a training program for aspiring event planners, a place where beauty was accessible to everyone, not just people who could afford it. As midnight approached, they sat on the floor surrounded by sketches and notes, exhausted but energized. "We could really do this," Zoe said. "We will do this." She looked at him, really looked. At some point over the past month, her guard had lowered. Fear had softened into trust. Distance had warmed into something deeper. "I'm starting to believe in you," she admitted. "I'm starting to believe in myself," he replied, "because of you. Not because of me, because you chose it. You're right, but you showed me it was possible." They sat in comfortable silence, shoulders touching, dreams spreading out before them like a map of the future. 2 weeks later, an invitation arrived. Elegant cardstock, formal script. Tanya Reid was hosting a charity gala. Zoe stared at it, her stomach knotting. The invitation was addressed to her business, a professional courtesy. But she knew what it really was. A test, a trap, a chance for Tanya to prove she still had power. "You don't have to go," Carla said when Zoe showed her. "If I don't, I look weak." "Who cares what Tanya thinks?" "I care. She belittled my business, made me feel small. If I hide from her, she wins. So go. Show her you're unbothered." Zoe took a breath. "I'm going to ask Ethan to come with me." Carla's eyebrows shot up. "Really? Really, if he's changed, this is where it shows, where he has to choose between his old world and his new one." That evening, Zoe called Ethan. "I got an invitation to Tanya's gala." Silence on the other end. Then, "Are you going?" "I think so. I don't want to let her make me feel small again." "Good. You shouldn't. I want you to come with me." More silence. Zoe could almost hear him thinking, weighing, deciding. "Yes," he said finally. "I'll be there, right beside you. Even though it means facing everyone in your old circle, even though they'll judge you for being with me, especially then. You asked me to stand beside you when it matters. This is when it matters." The night of the gala, Zoe wore a dress the color of deep emerald, simple but stunning. Ethan picked her up in a regular car, not a limo, not a flashy sports car, just a nice, normal car. "You look incredible," he said when she answered the door. "You clean up okay yourself." They drove to the venue, a museum with marble everything and art that cost more than most houses. The old Ethan would have fit here perfectly. This Ethan looked uncomfortable but determined. Inside, the party was in full swing. Wealthy people in expensive clothes networking and posing. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played something classical. And there, holding court in the center, was Tanya. She spotted them immediately. Her smile was sharp. "Ethan, you came!" She glided over, all grace and venom. Her eyes slid to Zoe. "And you brought your friend?" "Zoe is here as my date," Ethan said clearly. "I'm here to support her." Tanya's smile faltered slightly. "How sweet. Still playing the reform project, I see." "I'm not playing anything," Ethan said. His voice was calm but firm. "I made mistakes, said things I regret. I'm trying to be better. Zoe has helped me see that." "Oh, please. People don't change, darling. They just find new ways to pretend." Tanya looked at Zoe with fake sympathy. No offense, dear, but you're naive if you think a few months of good behavior erases years of character. Before Zoe could respond, Ethan stepped forward slightly, not blocking her but standing clearly beside her. You're wrong, he said. People can change if they want to badly enough. I'm not the man I was at your engagement party, bragging about wealth and status. I'm not the man who said stupid, hurtful things to hide his insecurity. I'm trying to be someone better, someone who earns the people in his life instead of collecting them like trophies. The people nearby had gone quiet, listening. And Zoe isn't a project, Ethan continued. She's not here to fix me or teach me manners. She's here because she gave grace to someone who didn't deserve it yet. Because she's brave enough to see potential in people. That's her gift, and I'm grateful she used it on me. Tanya's face had gone stiff with anger. How touching. Enjoy your little redemption story. We'll see how long it lasts. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. Zoe looked at Ethan, her heart pounding. He'd done it in front of everyone. He'd chosen her, defended her, claimed her publicly without shame or hesitation. That was, she started. Long overdue, he finished. I should have done it at my own gala. I'm sorry I didn't, but I meant every word just now. I know. Zoe felt tears threatening. Thank you. Don't thank me for doing what I should have done from the start. They left the gala shortly after. Neither of them wanted to stay in that world anymore. They drove to the riverfront instead, where they'd walked that night after coffee. You really have changed, Zoe said as they stood by the water. I'm trying. Every day. It shows. She turned to him. I forgave you weeks ago, but tonight I actually believe in you. What's the difference? Forgiveness is letting go of hurt. Belief is trusting in something new. She stepped closer. I believe you're different. I believe you'll stand beside me. I believe you've grown bigger. Ethan's eyes were shining. I love you, he said simply. I know it's too soon to say it. I know I have more to prove, but I do. I love who you are and who you make me want to be. Zoe's breath caught. She'd been waiting for those words without realizing it, and now that they were here, they felt right, true, earned. I love you too, she whispered, even though you drive me crazy, even though I'm still scared sometimes. I love you. He kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promise. Around them, the city glowed. The water reflected 1,000 lights, and for the first time in a long time, Zoe felt completely, utterly safe. Not because she'd found someone perfect, but because she'd found someone real. Winter settled over the city. Snow dusted the streets, and holiday lights appeared in windows. Zoe's studio stayed busy with end-of-year events, and Ethan balanced his company with volunteering and their growing community center project. They fell into a rhythm. Tuesday dinners at small restaurants, Thursday evenings helping at his youth program, weekends working on the community center plans together. It wasn't dramatic or flashy. It was steady, real. One Saturday morning, Ethan showed up at Zoe's studio with coffee and bagels. I have something to show you, he said, his eyes bright with excitement. What? It's a surprise. Get your coat. They drove to a neighborhood on the south side. Not the wealthy part of town, but a place with potential. Old buildings with good bones. Small businesses trying to survive. Families who cared about their community. Ethan parked in front of a large brick building. It looked abandoned but solid. Big windows. Good structure. Space. What is this? Zoe asked. Our community center. He handed her a set of keys. I bought it last week. Wanted to surprise you. Zoe stared at the keys, then at the building, then at him. You bought a building? We needed a location. This one's perfect. Big enough for event space, classrooms, offices. The neighborhood association is excited about it. And the price was right because everyone else thought it was too much work. Is it too much work? Probably. He grinned. But we're not everyone else. They walked through the empty building together. It needed everything. New floors, updated electrical, fresh paint, modern equipment. But Zoe could see it. Tables set for celebrations, students learning design, community members creating memories. It's perfect, she breathed. You really think so? I know so. She turned to him, overwhelmed. This is real. We're really doing this. We are. Together. They spent hours that day taking measurements, making notes, dreaming out loud. By the time they left, they had a timeline. 6 months to renovate, 3 months to staff and program, opening by next fall. This is going to take all my savings, Zoe said as they locked up. Mine too, well, a lot of mine. And every free hour we have, worth it. Yeah, she squeezed his hand. Yeah, it is. That evening, Zoe drove to her mother's house for Sunday dinner. It had become their tradition, every week no matter how busy. The house smelled like pot roast and baking bread when she arrived. "Baby," Lorraine hugged her tight, "you're glowing. Something good happened." Over dinner, Zoe told her mother about the building, about the plans, about how Ethan had found the perfect location and negotiated a fair price and included her in every decision. Lorraine listened, her expression thoughtful. "He's still showing up, every day, in small ways, consistent ways." "And how do you feel about him?" Zoe set down her fork. "I love him, Mama. I know you're worried. I know you think I should be more careful, but I really love him. I can see that." Lorraine reached across the table. "And baby, I'm not worried anymore, not like I was." "Really? That boy showed up here 2 weeks ago, knocked on my door while you were working." Zoe's eyes went wide. "What?" "He asked if he could talk to me. Said he knew I was protective of you, and he wanted to prove he was worthy of that protection." Lorraine smiled. "We sat in this kitchen for 2 hours. He told me everything, about his father, his mistakes, his therapy, how you changed him. Asked for my blessing to court you properly." "He asked for your blessing." "Old-fashioned, I know, but I appreciated it. He wasn't trying to impress me or buy my approval. He just wanted me to know his intentions were real." Zoe felt tears coming. "What did you say?" "I told him the same thing I'm telling you. Actions matter more than words. But his actions have been steady, humble, honest. So yes, baby, he has my blessing, and more importantly, he has my respect." Later, as Zoe drove home through the snowy streets, she called Ethan. "You went to see my mother?" He was quiet for a moment. "She told you. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't doing it for credit. I was doing it because it mattered. Your mother's opinion matters. Her trust matters. I wanted to earn it. You could have told me after. And if she'd said no, if she'd told me I wasn't good enough, I didn't want to put that between us. This was between me and her." Zoe pulled over, unable to drive and process this at the same time. "You really asked for her blessing?" "I did, because I'm serious about you, Zoe, about us, about building something that lasts, and that means respecting the people you love." "I love you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I love you too. Drive safe, okay?" After they hung up, Zoe sat in her car, watching snow fall through the streetlights. 6 months ago, she'd been guarding her heart. Now it was wide open, and somehow that felt safer than any wall she'd ever built. January arrived with bitter cold and the real work beginning. The community center renovation started in earnest. Ethan hired local contractors, creating jobs in the neighborhood. Zoe worked with architects and designers, making sure every detail was both beautiful and functional. They worked side by side most evenings. Ethan learned to read blueprints. Zoe learned about permits and building codes. They argued sometimes. Creative differences, stress, exhaustion. But they always talked through it, always came back to their shared vision. One night, working late at the building site, Zoe sat on a paint can while Ethan measured wall space. "You know what's different about this?" she asked. "What?" "With Marcus, my ex, everything was a negotiation. He'd give a little if I gave a little. Love was transactional. But with you, it's just given. No conditions. No scorekeeping." Ethan set down his tape measure. "Because real love isn't about trading. It's about building together. You taught me that. We taught each other." He came over, paint-stained and tired, and kissed her softly. "Best lesson I ever learned." By February, the renovation was halfway done. The local newspaper did a story about the project. Community members started asking how they could help. Donations came in, small amounts from neighbors who believed in the mission. Miles stopped by one afternoon while they were working. He looked around the space, impressed. "You've really done something here," he told Ethan. "This isn't the guy I knew 2 years ago." "That guy was lost," Ethan replied. "Took the right person to help me find my way." Miles looked at Zoe with respect. "Take care of him, he's better with you." "We're better together," Zoe corrected. "Yeah, you are." In March, everything was going smoothly. Too smoothly. Zoe should have known something would go wrong. The invitation came through email. Another gala, another charity event. But this one was different. It was a coastal resort, 2 hours from the city, a weekend retreat for major donors. Tanya was the chair, and the invitation specifically requested Moments by Z to handle the event design. "It's a trap," Carla said immediately. "She wants you there to humiliate you again. Maybe, Or maybe she actually wants good event design. Zoe, come on. This is Tanya we're talking about. But the money was substantial, and Zoe's business sense won out over caution. I can handle Tanya. I'm not afraid of her anymore. Ethan was less convinced. You don't have to take this job. We're doing fine financially. It's not about the money. It's about not letting her control my choices. I'm a professional. If she wants to hire me professionally, fine. Then I'm coming with you. Ethan, as your assistant, your equipment manager, whatever you need. But I'm not letting you face her alone. The weekend of the event, they drove to the coast together. The resort was beautiful, right on the water, elegant rooms, perfect views. Tanya had spared no expense. She was waiting when they arrived, her smile sharp as ever. Zoe, so glad you could make it. And Ethan, how cozy that you two are still together. Her tone made it clear she thought their relationship wouldn't last. Where do you want the setup? Zoe asked, all business. Follow me. The event space was stunning, a glass pavilion overlooking the ocean. But Tanya's vision was all wrong. She wanted everything white and cold, sharp lines, no warmth. This is supposed to be a celebration, Zoe said carefully. Your design is beautiful, but it feels more like a museum than a party. I hired you to execute my vision, not question it. You hired me for my expertise, and my expertise says guests will feel uncomfortable in this much coldness. Let me add some warm elements, gold touches, softer lighting, flowers that... No, I want exactly what I designed. That's why you're here, to make my vision real, not impose your own. It was a power play, making Zoe follow orders, trying to prove she was just hired help. Ethan started to speak, but Zoe touched his arm gently. She could fight her own battles. Fine, Zoe said calmly. I'll create exactly what you want, but I'm going on record saying it won't photograph well and guests will leave early. We'll see. That night, Zoe and Ethan worked late, setting up according to Tanya's specifications. The space looked expensive, impressive, and completely soulless. This is wrong, Ethan muttered. You know it. I know it. Even Tanya probably knows it. But it's what she wants. I'm here to do a job. You're here to be humiliated. When this event fails, she'll blame you. Say you couldn't execute her vision properly. Zoe stopped working. He was right. This was the trap. No matter what she did, Tanya would find a way to make her look bad. So what do? You trust yourself. Add the warm elements anyway. Small things she might not notice until it's too late to remove them. Then when the event succeeds, you can prove your instincts were right. It was risky, but Zoe trusted her skills. That night, after Tanya had gone to bed, she made subtle changes. Softer lighting gels that warmed the harsh white, small floral arrangements tucked into corners, fabric runners on tables that added texture without changing the overall look. By morning, the space was transformed, still elegant, still sophisticated, but warmer, more inviting, more human. Tanya arrived for the preview and paused. Something's different. Just final touches, Zoe said smoothly, making sure everything's perfect for tonight. Tanya walked through, examining everything. Her eyes narrowed, but she couldn't identify exactly what had changed. It's acceptable, barely. That night, the gala was a success. Guests lingered, conversations flowed. The photographer got beautiful shots of people actually enjoying themselves instead of posing stiffly. Several donors approached Zoe. This space is wonderful, so elegant but comfortable. Do you have a card? She handed them out professionally, aware of Tanya watching from across the room. At the end of the night, Tanya confronted her. You changed my design. I enhanced it. Your bones were good. I just added warmth. That's what you hired me for, my expertise. I hired you to follow instructions. No, you hired me hoping I'd fail. But I don't fail, Tanya. I create beautiful experiences for people. That's what I do. And no amount of your bitterness will change that. Tanya's face went red. You think you're so special now, that Ethan's reformed bad boy act makes you better than me. But people don't change. In 6 months, he'll be back to his old ways and you'll be exactly where I was. Discarded. Maybe. Zoe kept her voice level. Or maybe you never saw him clearly in the first place. Maybe you only wanted the image, not the person. I want the person. The real one. Even with all his flaws and work-in-progress parts. Before Tanya could respond, Ethan appeared. He'd been helping pack equipment, but had clearly heard the exchange. She's right, he said to Tanya. You never wanted me. You wanted what I represented, status, wealth, an impressive man on your arm, but you never knew me. Never asked what I feared or hoped for or dreamed about. Zoe does. She sees me, the actual me, and loves me anyway. That's the difference. Tanya stared at them both. For a moment, something like sadness flickered across her face. Then it was gone, replaced by cold pride. "Enjoy your little fairy tale," she said. "I'm sure it will end beautifully." She walked away. Her heels clicked across the floor, the sound of someone trying to maintain dignity while losing a battle they'd started. Ethan turned to Zoe. "You okay?" "I'm perfect. Let's go home." They drove back to the city that night, too energized to wait until morning. The ocean disappeared behind them. The city lights appeared ahead, and between them the comfortable silence of two people who didn't need to fill every moment with words. "Thank you," Zoe said as they crossed the bridge into the city. "For what?" "For defending me. But more importantly, for letting me defend myself first, for trusting I could handle it. You're the strongest person I know. Of course I trust you. But you still showed up, still stood beside me. Always will." Simple words. But they meant everything. Spring arrived with sudden warmth. The community center was nearly finished. The grand opening was scheduled for May 1st, just weeks away. Zoe spent every free moment finalizing details, hiring staff, planning the opening celebration, coordinating with community organizations. The work was exhausting but fulfilling. Ethan was equally busy. His company had just closed a major deal, which meant long hours, but he still made time for the center. Still showed up for their Tuesday dinners and Thursday volunteer sessions. Still texted her goodnight every single night. One evening, with the opening just 2 weeks away, they stood in the finished space together. The walls were painted in warm colors. The floors gleamed. The event space waited for its first celebration. The classrooms were equipped with computers and design software. The kitchen was ready to help people prepare for their events. "We did it," Zoe whispered. "It's real." "You did it. I just provided resources." "No, we did it together. Every decision, every compromise, every late night. Together." Ethan pulled her close. "I'm proud of us." "Me too." They stood there, holding each other in the space they'd built. Through the windows, the neighborhood spread out. People coming home from work, kids playing, life happening. This center would be part of that life now, a place where beauty was accessible, where celebrations didn't require wealth, where community mattered more than status. "I want to ask you something," Ethan said, his voice serious. Zoe's heart skipped. "Okay. Not now, but soon, at the opening. Is that too public? Too much pressure?" She knew what he meant, knew without him saying the actual words. "I love public," she said, smiling, "as long as it's real. It's the realest thing I've ever done." The opening day arrived sunny and warm. The neighborhood showed up in force. Families, business owners, local leaders. The mayor gave a speech. News crews covered the story, but the best moments were smaller. A grandmother crying because her grandson could have his birthday party here for free. A teenage girl excited about taking design classes. A young couple asking about hosting their wedding. Zoe moved through the crowd, greeting people, accepting congratulations. Carla was there, beaming with pride. Lorraine stood near the kitchen, already planning how her flower shop could partner with the center. Miles cornered Ethan near the event space. "You really did something good here, man." "We did, Zoe and I." "Yeah, you two are good together. You know that, right?" "I do. I'm lucky." "Not lucky. You worked for it, changed for it. That's better than lucky." As the sun started to set, Ethan asked for everyone's attention. The crowd quieted. Zoe stood off to the side, thinking he was about to give a closing speech. "This center exists because of one person," Ethan began. "Zoe Daniels. She had the vision, the expertise, the heart to believe that beauty should be accessible to everyone, not just people with money. I just provided resources. She provided everything else." Applause filled the room. Zoe's cheeks warmed. "But more than that," Ethan continued, "she taught me something I didn't know I needed to learn. That worth isn't measured by wealth. That real beauty comes from authenticity. That changing yourself is the hardest and most important work you'll ever do." He moved toward her through the crowd. People stepped aside, sensing something significant happening. 6 months ago, I was a man who thought he knew what he wanted, who measured people by surface things, who was afraid of anything real because real meant vulnerable. He stopped in front of her. "Then you walked into that bar, and instead of letting me stay small and safe, you challenged me, called me out, made me want to grow bigger." Zoe's heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. "You make everything I thought I wanted look small," Ethan said, his voice thick with emotion. Because you are everything I didn't know I needed. Real, honest, strong, beautiful in ways that can't be bought or faked. You demand better from the world. You demanded better from me. And somehow, miraculously, you believed I could become that better version. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Zoe's breath caught. The crowd went completely silent. This isn't a proposal, Ethan said quickly. Not yet. We both said we'd take our time, build this right, earn each other. He opened the box. Inside was a simple ring, not an engagement ring, just a band with a small inscription. This is a promise that I will keep showing up, keep growing, keep choosing you every single day, that when I do ask you to marry me, it will be because I've proven I'm worthy of your yes. He handed her the box. Zoe looked at the ring through tears. The inscription read, "Growing bigger together. I love you," Ethan said, "and I promise I'll keep earning that love every day for the rest of my life." Zoe took the ring out, slipped it on her finger. It fit perfectly, like it was always meant to be there. "I love you too," she said, "and I promise to keep challenging you, keep being real with you, keep believing in who you're becoming." They kissed as the crowd erupted in applause. Around them, in the center they'd built together, people celebrated, not just the opening of a building, but the power of second chances, of real change, of love that transforms. Later, after everyone had left, and they were alone cleaning up, Zoe and Ethan stood by the windows looking out at the neighborhood. "Today was perfect," Zoe said. "It was just the beginning. We have so much more to do, so many people to serve." "I know, but right now, in this moment, it's perfect." Ethan wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "I meant what I said about the promise. I know, and I believe you. When I do ask you to marry me, really ask, will you be ready? Ask me in 6 months, after you've proven you can handle my worst days and my busiest schedules and my stubborn moments. Deal." They stood together as the sun set completely and stars appeared. The city hummed with life around them. The center waited for tomorrow's classes and meetings and celebrations, and they were ready, together. Not perfect, not finished growing, but real. And that was worth more than anything money could buy. 6 months later, on a beach at sunrise, Ethan asked the question properly, with Zoe's mother there and Carla and Miles, with the waves crashing and the sky turning pink and gold, with no performance, no pressure, just honest love. Zoe said yes, not because he'd become perfect, not because all their struggles were over, but because he'd proven himself through consistency, through showing up, through choosing growth over comfort every single day. They married a year after that. Simple ceremony, beautiful reception at their community center, food cooked by neighborhood restaurants, flowers from Lorraine's shop, decorations they'd designed together. It wasn't expensive, but it was priceless. And as they danced their first dance, surrounded by people who'd watched them grow, who'd supported them, who believed in their love, Zoe thought about that night in the rooftop bar. How one painful moment had become the doorway to everything real. "What are you thinking about?" Ethan asked, holding her close. "How you used to think you wanted someone who looked expensive. I was an idiot." "Yes, but you learned. I'm still learning, every day with you." "Good. Don't stop. Never." They swayed together, the music soft and sweet. Around them, their community celebrated, not because of wealth or status, but because two imperfect people had chosen to grow together, to build something real, to love with courage. She didn't make his money look small anymore. She made his world feel full, and that was the best ending and the best beginning either of them could have hoped for. The end.